Welcome everybody. We are doing a Q&A today so we can have some conversations about mental health. I'm Melissa Wesner. I am the founder of LifeSpring Counseling Services, and I am going to let Jima introduce herself.
So hey everybody, my name is Jima Chester. I'm 17 years old. I'm currently a senior at the Baltimore Polytechnic Institute. I'm a youth leader, advocate, entrepreneur, and artist as well within Baltimore City. So I do a lot of community work with organizations such as Heart Smiles and the Healing Youth Alliance, as well as like different internships. Like this summer, I'm interning with LifeSpring Counseling Services. But I've also worked with John Hopkins and other organizations as well.
That is a really impressive list of accolades.
Don't you always feel weird talking after her, Liza? She has a list of all these things that she's doing and has done.
Absolutely. So I'm Liza Krohn. I'm a clinical supervisor with LifeSpring Counseling, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to ask you some questions. Let's just dive into it, all right? So can you tell us a little bit about some of the mental health training that you've already done and what you've taken away from those experiences?
Yes. So like I mentioned before, the Healing Youth Alliance, it's a youth-led organization, and we go as ambassadors of the Healing Youth Alliance. We go through a training for a long time. I believe it's 20 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. And majority of those weeks are us learning about mental health and being trained in things such as healing session engagement, the different types of mental health, as well as different healing strategies that we can implement within ourselves, our families, but as well as our communities. We were trained by therapists and clinicians from the Black Mental Health Alliance. So they came and spoke with us every week. We met like every Monday. So it was like extensive training. We met like, I think 2 or 3 hours. So I learned about various mental health topics, from like anxiety to like post-traumatic stress disorder. I've learned a lot of things about specifically my community, and definitely a lot about like my history of like where I've come from and how that trauma can also affect me now and others in my community. So we definitely received a lot of background knowledge about mental health now, but as well as mental health and how it has developed from the past, and how that can affect people and how we can help those through our trainings and different presentations that we do. So that's kind of like the whole preparation of hire. So we get trained on mental health and trauma as well as healing, and then we take those things that we've learned and we do different presentations and trainings. Like I've trained, I think it was over 300 staff at the Enoch Pratt Library. And me and Sydney, we trained them on post-traumatic stress and trauma within youth, and how they can just get a better understanding of that to be able to serve the youth that come to the libraries better. So that's just like an example of like some of the trainings that we do. But at the end of our trainings, we do like a big conference where we choose one of our favorite topics about mental health and trauma, and we present about it and just give people ways that they can deal with it if they are experiencing it, or help other people who also are experiencing it.
And that's exactly why we're interviewing you, Jima. We know that you have a wealth of knowledge already. So that is one of the things that we're wondering about. What kinds of stigma do you see facing people when it comes to the topic of mental health or getting treatment for mental health?
Yeah, so I know I definitely see a lot of stigma, especially within like the youth community as well, but as well within like minorities, that you don't need to go to therapy, or that mental health isn't even real. And they're just like, well, whatever you're experiencing is something that you can get over, and that you don't have to go see a professional for. Like, you don't have to pay somebody to tell you how to express your feelings. Like, you don't even really need to talk about it. You'll just get over it. Like, time will pass and you'll be okay. So I definitely think that the biggest stigma around mental health now is that it doesn't even exist. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that like the Healing Youth Alliance and me myself as like a mental health advocate are trying to combat against, like trying to get people to understand, like you said earlier, like everybody has a mental health. So making sure that everybody has a good understanding of that, and that, you know, even though you may have never experienced receiving professional help for this, or maybe you don't want to, but there are other options that you do need to do to take care of your mental health and mental well-being.
Yeah. Just to kind of take that a step further, what are some of the things that you think people can be doing to break the stigma around mental health treatment?
Yes. I know for me, I also had a stigma against within mental health, like growing up, because my family wasn't very educated on it. So I know when I was experiencing mental health issues like depression or like anxiety within school and different things like that, even though it wasn't anything like necessarily like really major, just kind of like different flows of emotions and things like that.
Mhm.
I didn't know how to address it because I didn't know what it was. So when I heard about higher and I was like, what's mental health? I'm like, what's that? I'm like, it sounds important. So I was like, let me learn about it. So going through that process of just learning about mental health, even though that was kind of like more like an extensive training, I know like some of the other training that we did, like where we're just doing like presentations or conversations with youth in different spaces, that just them knowing that mental health is real and that them realizing and us showing examples and them like, oh, I've experienced that. I actually experienced it like earlier today. Like I didn't realize that I was having a little bit of anxiety. So knowing that I can teach other people like, hey, you all experience this, and they can come in, various different forms and different levels. It might not be as serious, it might be serious. So just letting people know that like mental health is real. But I know it was a big thing for me, like I just said before, that me learning about mental health allowed me to see like, okay, I see why like this is happening and why this is happening. Just like connecting the dots within myself. So I was able to explain it to like my family members, and they were able to connect the dots. And now it's like just like makes the house like run totally smoother because everybody understands like mental health and is able for us to, have a better connection with one another as well as ourselves.
Yeah, and I love so many things that you just said, Gemma, and I just want to highlight a few of them. One thing that I heard is that sometimes we need information. We just need information about mental health because we can't understand it if we don't have information or if we don't have accurate information. And the other thing that you mentioned that's so important is that we receive so many different messages about mental health, sometimes from our family, our community, sometimes it can be from our faith community. And sometimes the information that we get, it's just passed down. Sometimes the information we get is good information. Sometimes it's not helpful information. And the other thing that I heard you say is that when I had information and it resonated with me and my experience, it made so much sense and it felt so much better and had a big impact. And that you were also able to take that information and share it with other people who were like, oh, wait, that makes so much sense. So really appreciate you sharing all of that. So what are some things that you are learning about mental health at LifeSpring?
Yes, so we mentioned it before, but definitely stigma, even though I kind of had like a background of it, being able to translate stigma in different ways to allow other people to understand it as well, to be able to like share on social media. It's also important, but going through like the blogs and stuff on the website, so reading about mental health within women and just the different things that you all practice at LifeSpring Counseling Services was also very interesting. I haven't worked with, even though Haya is youth focused and is only youth in the program, we do have like adult overseers, but we mainly work with social workers, and we have worked with like clinicians and therapists, but definitely working with a company that does therapy and offers it, and learning about the different services and the different types and like the different backgrounds that you can have to be able to be a therapist has been very interesting for me as well. So always like really good to be working with people who are actively in the mental health field, helping other people as well. So it's good to see like this kind of like first person point of view and be able to have this great connection with actual therapists who are currently still doing that work.
Absolutely. I love that sense of being able to do it in community with other people that are passionate about something, doing it day to day. Well, I think a good note to end on might be if you could say anything to people who are currently struggling with their mental health, but might be hesitant to get help because of stigma, what would you say to them?
Like we mentioned earlier, information is everything. So just seeing this, take this as like the information, the good information that you needed to go sign up for a counseling service. So to try something out, or maybe it's like a support group or something that's in your neighborhood that you might want to try. Just a various different amounts of things that you can try before you get to like actual therapy sessions. But I would definitely recommend looking for the right therapist for you and just trying different mental health services that are available to you before you maybe get into like the full-blown therapy sessions. But as somebody who didn't understand what therapy was at first, that can also help you with your understanding of like what you need to take care of your mental health and what you need addressed at the moment as well.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for talking with us today, Gemma. And we hope that everybody has found this information helpful. I think that sometimes it can be really helpful to hear from people who, are working in the community and you've had a lot of training and you're talking about firsthand experience. And I hope that a lot of people will find that information helpful and that it will resonate with them and perhaps help them to consider their own mental health and maybe mental health treatment as well, if that's something they think they need.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for spending time with us.